Great timing because one of the 18 states joining Texas in that lawsuit is Arizona, which is surprising to some because Arizona has already certified its results for former Vice President Joe Biden, the only state joining the Texas lawsuit that had done that. Dr. Kelly Ward is the chairwoman of the Arizona Republican Party, and she joins us now. Dr. Ward, thanks for coming on. What's your reaction to Arizona joining this fight in Texas?
Well, I'm glad to see it. I'm thankful that Attorney General Brnovich decided to do this, though there is part of me that thinks we should actually be being sued by Texas because here in Arizona, our laws were changed midstream as well. Our election or our voter registration deadline was extended by 10 days. We actually shortened the period that the group was trying to extend it. They wanted to extend it all the way until October 23rd. We went to court. We stopped it as of October 15th. But for 10 days, people were able to register. And probably some of those people who registered were able to actually vote early on the same day, which is strictly against legislative intent. We do not have same-day registration and then voting here in Arizona. But I'm glad to see that Governor Brnovich is putting Arizona into the fray. I will say I didn't really like some of the stuff he put in his statement, which basically says that Arizona's elections are pristine and perfect because I know, and your viewers know, and the voters of Arizona know that that simply isn't the case.
Yeah, you've mentioned your concerns and you've made them known. And yet the last election lawsuit pending in Arizona was thrown yesterday. And I want to read you what the judge had to say in her ruling, writing allegations that find favor in the public sphere of gossip and innuendo cannot be a substitute for earnest pleadings and procedure in federal court, end quote. Your response to that statement?
Well, that's just a bunch of hogwash. Sorry to tell you, because that judge didn't even allow a hearing to happen, which is why in that federal case, we are going to appeal to the Supreme Court of the United States. There are sworn affidavits in the evidence that was provided. There were binders full of evidence that were given to the judge. It is not based on innuendo. It is not based on rumor. It is not based on lies. It is based on things that people who were part of the process have seen. There were irregularities here in Arizona. There were also in Georgia, in Pennsylvania, in Michigan, in Wisconsin, and probably other places as well. I talked to some people in Minnesota who were concerned. I talked to people in New Mexico who were concerned about their processes as well. I can tell you one thing. We have got to get this under control because more than half the country don't trust the results of this particular election, and they're not going to trust elections going forward if we don't get these processes to a place where they can be verified, where not just officials whose job it is to do the elections get to tell us everything's okay, that we as the American people, we as citizens are able to see and have it proved to us that these things are legitimate. Right now, that's not the case.
Okay, Kelly, hold that thought. We do have some breaking news we want to get to. It's again that hearing going on in Georgia right now. Rudy Giuliani is speaking. Let's listen in.
They didn't know how they were going to do it, so they had to close down the center. And then all of a sudden, they got rid of everybody. And lo and behold, we see all of a sudden a quick 140,000 votes pumped in, vast majority of which turned out to be all for Biden. And then all throughout the night, they're pumping it in. And then they had to do that for 2 or 3 more nights because they were so far behind in Pennsylvania. The statistical chance of Biden winning Pennsylvania at the point that he was on Tuesday night was something like 0.0000. I don't know, it's like 15 zeros before you get to a 1, meaning it was impossible to make up the 800,000 votes unless you did precisely what they have done for 60 years in a row in Philadelphia, which is to commit voter fraud. Not unusual for Philadelphia. But it happened at approximately the same time you see this cheating going on in Atlanta. In Detroit, a very similar thing happened. They decided that it was getting too late. Everybody was hungry. Everybody should take off. Everybody should go home. And they shooed everybody out of the center where they were counting votes. Fortunately for us, 2 Republican workers either didn't get the word, was somewhere else when they were being shooed out, or didn't go, weren't recognized particularly as Republicans and hung around. And one very, very brave Dominion employee who at that point had become disgusted with the illegal activities of Dominion was also around. And what they observed was somewhere around 4 o'clock in the morning, they heard big noise in the back. They saw trucks, not ballot trucks. It looked like food trucks or possibly garbage trucks were pulling up. They were very hungry. They ran to the back.
Okay, we're listening in live to that Georgia election hearing. You see Rudy Giuliani in the corner of your screen there, basically speaking to testimony that was presented by people in Michigan, in Pennsylvania, and Georgia, as well as we saw the video footage being played from that ballot counting location in the state of Georgia. Kelly, you know, there were hearings going on in your state of Arizona as well. What do you make of these testimonies being presented? Again, you are putting a person, a face and a name on the line here and making these testimonies. Does that give it any more merit to what they claim they've seen?
I believe anybody who's willing to sign an affidavit, which is under the threat of perjury, is willing to be held accountable. And we've got dozens, if not hundreds of those, if not thousands from across the country. And so we've got brave whistleblowers that have come forward. We've got people that have worked in observation areas and been prevented from meaningfully observing what's going on. We've got testimony that one person duplicated ballots with, and happened to be a Democrat in Pima County, without any kind of observation from any political party, from anyone. And so those kinds of things create distrust in the election results. All the election officials have to do is shine light on this. Instead, they want to push it under the rug. They want to keep it in darkness. I mean, I urge our governor, I urge our Secretary of State, our elections department officials, our recorders to shine the light on the elections here in Arizona so that the people in our state and the people in the nation are confident that the electors that our governor has been willing to send on, I think improperly and inaccurately, are actually the ones who should be going to the Electoral College.
How might you go about fixing that for future elections? Would you encourage some sort of voter identification?
I have always been a proponent of 100% voter identification. I also think that people should have to vote on Election Day unless there is some actual reason why they can't. That would cure a lot of these problems. I believe also having paper ballots is important. However, if no one's ever able to look at them, you might as well not have them. We've got to create a sense of accuracy and legitimate in this election in 2020, which I think is impossible. We're going to see that with this case of Texas versus the other states. It's impossible, and other electors are being disenfranchised by fraud in some states around our country. We can't allow that to happen. And legislatively going forward, our legislatures have got to fix things before the 2022 election.
You're calling for change. Dr. Kelly Ward joining us live this morning on the program from Arizona. Dr. Kelly, thanks so much.
Glad to be here.